With the final weeks of the 2019-20 season played behind closed doors, and the following campaign due to start the same way, this summer's transfer window could see the market correct itself after years of insane price inflation. Already we've seen Timo Werner and Leroy Sané swap clubs for under £50 million, and as a result, the fees paid in 2019 are starting to look even sillier than they did at the time. So on today's Scout Report, we've decided to look at 3 of the most expensive and most scrutinised moves of last summer, to assess how these players got on with their new clubs, and whether they can justify the ridiculous money spent on them. Nicolas Pepe. While at the time of writing, Chelsea have spent over £40 million on a player 7 times, and Man United have done so on 11 occasions, Arsenal had only paid that sum for Ozil, Lacazette and Aubameyang heading into the summer of 2019. And as usual, the Gunners had made it known that they would not be spending big, with newspapers speculating that the club might only have around £50 million to target a return to the Champions League. So it came as a shock when Nicolas Pepe, heavily linked with Napoli, Bayern and Liverpool, arrived at the Emirates for £72 million, 20 more than the previous record Aubameyang, and it was expected that the transfer would be a game changer. Pepe was coming off a year of 22 goals and 11 assists in 38 Ligue 1 matches, and having only recently turned 24 at the time, seemed ideally placed to form the centre of the team's attack, as Ozil and the 2-star strikers headed into their 30s. But though Pepe ended the 2019-20 season with the FA Cup, the first trophy of his career, it's been a harder 12 months than he would have hoped for. Perhaps unsurprisingly, given that 8 of his goals in 18-19 were penalties, he hasn't hit over 20 again. But just 5 in league play is undeniably disappointing, while his assists also dropped dramatically to just 6 in 31 appearances. Still, it was a solid first year, and if it weren't for the fee, these would be promising numbers. Yes, Pepe is now taking 2.2 shots a game instead of the 3.2 he managed at Lille, but that difference is almost entirely made up of penalties and shots from outside the box, so it doesn't represent a huge decline in his ability to get attempts on goal off from good areas. Creatively, there's room for optimism as well. With 0.22 expected assists per 90, Pepe leads the Arsenal squad in chances made and ranks just outside the Premier League's top 20 players in this metric, above Bruno Fernandes and Jack Grealish. If he could hit the mark of the 0.28 he managed in his final year in France, he'd move up to 8th in the division. And given that Arsenal managed just 11 shots a game in 1920 compared to 12.3 the year before and 15.6 in Wenger's final season, there's clearly reason to think that the attack is in a slump, which Mikel Arteta can remedy. Pepe also adds dynamism with the ball. In 2018-19, Alex Iwobi was the only Arsenal player to complete more than 2 dribbles a game, while the Ivorian currently succeeds with 3.2, 9th in the Prem, and the early returns suggest that he is willing to develop his pressing game under Arteta too. His 2 tackles and interceptions per game won't see him confused with N'Golo Kanté anytime soon, but that's more than twice his previous best across a season. And in the FA Cup final, he made 3 successful challenges, equalling Rob Holding and Dani Ceballos for the best mark among his teammates. Of course, it's hard for the stats to show how frustrating Pepe can be too, with his tendency to dribble into blind alleys and unwillingness to use his right foot. And for that reason, it seems clear that Arsenal overpaid by 20 to 30 million when they brought him to England. But fortunately, unlike most record acquisitions, Pepe doesn't actually cost Arsenal that much in wages. His salary on signing was £140k a week, and that's dropped to £122k after the squad agreed a pay cut in the wake of the coronavirus epidemic. The further we get from the summer of 2019, and the more distant the memory of that record fee, the better Pepe will probably look. But if he fails to build on his decent stats and produce more in 2021, expect the notoriously demanding Gunners faithful to lose patience quickly. Joao Felix. The most expensive transfer of the 2019-20 season was Joao Felix to Atletico, the Portuguese teenager becoming the 4th costliest footballer ever after registering 26 goals and assists in 26 starts across the league and Europa League for Benfica the year before. Fresh from selling Antoine Griezmann, a decision which looks like one of the season's best, Diego Simeone put the future of his side's attack in the hands of Felix, paying €126 million for his signature on a 7-year contract. Looking at the raw numbers, it hasn't been a roaring success. In a side tip to challenge for the title, Felix failed to ignite, registering just 6 goals and 1 assist in La Liga. By comparison, Griezmann's goal contribution record across his 5 seasons there reads 23, 26, 24, 26 and 20. And while Felix's defenders will point to a poor team performance, which saw only Morata get into double figures, the 20-year-old's tally was still matched or exceeded by 4 of his teammates. However, the underlying numbers do indicate that the youngster was doing the right things. Based on the quality of chance he created and the locations of his shots, expected goals suggests that he should have been closer to 8 goals and 3 assists, which for a very inexperienced player in a new league would have been respectable, shaking out to around 0.5 xG per game, directly between Barcelona's Ansu Fati and Real Madrid's Vinicius Jr. In fact, across Europe's top 5 leagues, Fati, Jadon Sancho and Erling Haaland were the only players younger than Felix who matched or beat his expected goals numbers. Elite company, and suggesting Atleti's money hasn't gone to waste. On the other hand, he's not currently pulling his weight defensively. In Portugal, Felix was notable not just for his goal scoring and creativity, but also for his work rate, frequently pressing opponents into mistakes and tracking back to help out the fullbacks. But in Madrid, he ranks in the bottom 3 in the squad for tackles and interceptions, alongside Costa and Morata. And while that can make it seem like Simeone isn't asking his forwards to make challenges, the other 2 strikers work much harder, pressing opponents 13 to 14 times a game, while Felix is on 10, lower than everyone else except the centre-halves and Santiago Arias. Still, Felix won't turn 21 until November, and those paying close attention can clearly see his talent, with rumours circling in recent weeks that Manchester City were interested in signing him, only to be warned off by Atleti. With Real heavily reliant on 32-year-old Karim Benzema, and Barcelona stumbling from coach to coach, Atletico have an opening next season, and if Felix improves, and more importantly if his real and expected output start to line up, he could power his club into the title race in 2021. Harry Maguire. When Man United spent $80 million on Harry Maguire in 2019, the Englishman must have had mixed emotions. On the one hand, he was leaving a good club in Leicester for one of the world's biggest, and picking up a monster $200k a week contract. But on the other, he must have known that becoming the most expensive defender of all time would put a target on his back, and it's a mark of success that United have only been occasionally mocked for the signing during 2019-20. In broad strokes, the Red Devils have got their money's worth. Maguire was just one of 7 outfielders to play every minute of the Premier League season, and despite their early struggles, dropping as low as 14th in late October, United ended up finishing 3rd and with a place in next year's Champions League, putting them ahead of schedule in their planned rebuild. And while the focus was on United's attack after the restart, thanks to the spectacular form of the front 3 and Bruno Fernandes, it was the defence which kept them in touching distance of the top 4 throughout the campaign. From February on, United conceded 7 goals and kept 9 clean sheets in 14 league matches, and they were the only club in the division besides City and Liverpool to allow under 1 goal per game across the whole season, ending up with 36 against in 38 matches. Maguire can't take all the credit for that, but he's certainly been consistent. Never a huge tackler, he maintained his rate of 1 a game from his time at Leicester, but became much better at stepping out and making interceptions, with nearly 2 per 90, just outside the Prem's top 20 and the same as Aaron Wan-Bissaka. He also of course remained hugely dominant in the air, winning 71% of his duels, not far off Van Dijk's 75%, and showed a good nose for danger, leading United in both clearances and shots blocked per 90. But being a decent defender isn't enough to earn you a record price tag, and Maguire's passing has been more of a mixed bag. While he completes over 4 long balls a game, which is 3rd behind Fred and Pogba, his distribution is not especially incisive, with 5 teammates moving the ball into the final third more often than him, and 10 players making more progressive passes, with Maguire and Lindelof neck and neck. He also has a tendency to get over-ambitious and start running upfield, meaning that over the course of the year, he was dispossessed as often as the rest of United's centre-backs put together, and that price can't be entirely disregarded despite United's wealth. His salary is topped only by Pogba and De Gea at Old Trafford, and over the life of his contract, the club will end up spending £140.7 million on him, enough to buy Sheffield United and have £30 million left over. Of the 3 players we've profiled, Maguire has been the most successful in the sense of helping his club improve and reach their goals. But the question remains whether a cheaper centre-back and an upgrade at defensive midfield could have done the same job for less money. And while Pepe and Felix have long careers ahead of them and will retain resale value, Maguire is unlikely to fetch a significant fee if he does move on at some stage. To prove his value, the Englishman will need to help Solskjaer consolidate a European spot next season and push on towards the teams above them. If United slip back, expect the debate over his cost to return in 2021. And that's all we have time for today, but let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this video, please do give it a like and subscribe to the channel for more great content. Bye for now.